This is 6U3C5L2 absolute value. Here's Mr. Romanovich.
Hello, I have a helper. And I don't have an opening joke, so that went flat. All right, 6U3.C5.L2, get that down in your title topic. Absolute value in your title topic. Get your ownership corner done. Here is our essential question today. Oh, it's a big one. How do I find the absolute value of an integer and simplify expressions involving absolute value? No soup for me. Letter I, big letter I here for number one, Roman number one. Absolute value. Here comes a definition. The definition of absolute value is a distance a number is from, you said it in your head already, 0. The distance a number is from 0. So in the examples here, what we have is negative 16 and 16. What we would say is that negative 16 is 16 steps away from 0, which means the absolute value of negative 16 is 16. Then 16 is 16 steps from 0, which means the absolute value of positive 16 is also 16. Because we're talking about this idea of distance, we're always going to describe distance as a positive. So for instance, when you came to school today, let's say you traveled 3 miles. When you go home, you will not travel negative 3 miles, you're just going to travel another 3 miles. So whether you're going from a negative or a positive, that distance to 0 will always be a positive number. So on our vertical then graph, our vertical number line here, the distance between 7 and 0 would be 7, you guessed it. Then the distance between negative 7 and 0 would also be 7. Let's talk about the absolute value symbol. So the absolute value symbol is when we put bars around a number. They're vertical lines that go straight up and down. Bars next to a number mean find the absolute value. So here's 5 examples. Make sure you write the examples down. Make sure you write the examples down clearly so that if you go back to references, you can see what you did, okay? Like some of your notes that I check, you're writing this down, that's great, but it's not in a form that you can see what you did. So make sure you're kind of stretching out a little more on the paper, giving yourself some space, and writing in a size that you can read, and writing in a clarity that you can read as well. So let's look at what we've got here. Here we've got the absolute value of negative 8, or the distance negative 8 is from 0, and that's 8 steps. You have the absolute value of 3. How far is 3 from 0? 3. We have the opposite of 23 here. The opposite of 23, negative 23. How far is that from 0? That's 23 steps. Then here we've got, oh, look at this. What's going on? All right, so we'll look at this on the next slide too, but absolute value bars are grouping symbols, just like parentheses. So we'll do what's inside the absolute value first, and then apply anything on the outside afterwards. So here we know the absolute value of 56 is 56, but what it's asking for is, what is the opposite of the absolute value of 56? If the absolute value of 56 is 56, and the opposite of that then is negative 56. One more. We have the absolute value, or distance from 0, that negative 8 is. But it's the opposite of it. What's the opposite of the distance of negative 8 from 0? So the absolute value of negative 8 is 8. And then the opposite of that 8 would be negative 8. That's a better red. I should have went to that sooner. Then, part C. We're up to a part C now. Absolute value and expressions. Quick reminder, expressions are combinations of hashtags, numbers, combinations of numbers and operators. So these two things are expressions. What turns them into equations is adding an equal sign and an answer. That's an equation, that's an equation. If I take those off, I don't know why I'm making a sound effect for that, but sure was fun. Now they're expressions again. So then we have our absolute value. Consider it grouping. We touched on this briefly in the last slide. Treat these like the same as parentheses. Do what's inside the absolute value first, and then whatever's on the outside, you'll apply that. Here's 3 expressions. Make sure you write these down. And when you do these in format, make sure you're just rewriting the thing right underneath it. Please don't be so lazy as to not write the operator. So what we're looking for is how far is 5 from 0? 5 plus the distance negative 6 is from 0. 6 equals 11. Here, how far is negative 8 from 0? 8 minus how far is negative 2 from 0? 2, 6. Now we have an expression inside absolute value bars. So we have 7 plus 3. We'll do that first. So you might want to write a first here. 7 plus 3 is 10. But we still have those absolute value bars to handle. How far is 10 from 0? 10. Not too tough. Let's hit the target. Okay, 3 things here. Number 1, graph negative 7 on a number line. Vertical, whoops, horizontal or vertical, either one. And then show its absolute value, right? So give me the distance. Give me that nice arc that points to where 0 is and tell me how far it is. What's the absolute value of 14? And what's this expression? Can you simplify this expression? The opposite of 7, the absolute value of the opposite of 7 minus the absolute value of the opposite of 3. That is really a lot of stuff there. Absolute value of negative 7 minus absolute value of negative 3. If you need to rewatch this, you can rewatch this. If you watch it in slow-mo, you can watch it in slow-mo. I don't know that that'll help, but maybe it'll shut me up. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Good luck. Hit the button.